You ever wake up one day and realize you've become the villain in someone else's story? Yeah, that happened to me. And not just to anybody. I'm talking about a certain Linda Graves, HOA president, queen of the Harbor Point Waterfront, and, apparently, the woman who thought she could take everything from me with a smile and a legal pad. I'll say it right now. If you think money and connections mean you're untouchable, you haven't met someone with nothing left to lose. And you definitely haven't met me. Let me back up a sec, so you get the whole picture, not the one from some fancy developer's brochure, but the real thing. My name's Daniel Carter. For most of my life, I've been a forensic accountant, the kind of job where you're paid to follow the scent of missing money through layers of shell companies and fake invoices, and sometimes you end up staring down the barrel of a lawsuit or, worse, a very expensive pen. But I never imagined the toughest case I'd ever face would start on the rocky banks of Lake Westfield, my home, the place my family's lived for more than a century, where my granddad built the old boathouse by hand in 1912 and where my dad used to tell me, boy, out here, you don't just own the land, you belong to it. You might roll your eyes, but you have to understand. This patch of earth, with its worn cedar porch and the smell of wildflowers my mother planted along the dock, is the closest thing to sacred I know. I never cared much for glass mansions or HOA rules about kayak rack colors. To me, the rhythm of the lake, the creak of old dock lines in a breeze, the laughter echoing across water on a summer night, that was enough. But people like Linda? They want everything to look like the inside of a magazine, shiny, uniform, soulless. And when they want your land, well, they don't ask. They just find a way to take it. It started so small I almost missed it. First, I found a safety notice slapped on my dock. Gate, bright orange, warning about unsafe structures. Someone filed a complaint, of course. Then came tire tracks through my meadow, leading from Harbor Point's private marina. Suddenly, a county notice claimed my place was abandoned, transferred the whole property to Harbor Point for community development. And just like that, it was theirs. Or so they thought. You ever watch a storm roll over a lake? How the air goes heavy and you feel something shift, even before the first crack of thunder. That's what it felt like the morning I realized what they'd done. I stood on the dock, the wind snapping that envelope in my hand, reading legal language so cold it could have frozen fire. Abandoned. Transferred. To most people, that's just paperwork. But for me, it was war. Linda Graves. Let's talk about her for a second. She looked the part. Perfect hair, pastel sweaters draped over her shoulders, sunglasses that probably cost more than my truck. She showed up on my shoreline once, pointed at a stand of oak trees, and told me, "These block the lake view from several of our residences. You should consider having them removed." I just laughed. "Lady, those trees have been here longer than your whole neighborhood." She gave me that tight, brittle smile, like she was trying not to chip a tooth. "Sometimes progress means letting go of the past, Mr. Carter." I said nothing, but I was thinking, yeah, but sometimes the past lets go of you first. You know what I mean? Of course, silence to people like Linda isn't strength, it's an invitation. The next month, I found the infamous beige envelope taped to my boathouse door. Legal transfer, chronic violations, development opportunity. I could almost hear her voice. "You can't win, Daniel." That's when I realized they hadn't just underestimated me. They didn't even see me. To them, I was just an inconvenience, something to be papered over and bulldozed into. Memory. Well, I've made a living finding what people try to hide, and I'm real hard to forget. The first thing you learn in my line of work, the people who seem untouchable are usually standing on a pile of secrets. So I got to work, old school. My office is the converted tackle room. Smells like cedar and machine oil, 3 monitors humming. I started digging. County records, financial statements, HOA budgets. And man, did they leave a trail. A zoning clerk named Mitchell Ross signed off on the property transfer. Turns out, he'd been a guest at Linda's infamous cocktail parties. The ones where deals get made over Chardonnay and nobody ever takes minutes. You want a twist? Here it is, through an old friend, a contractor named Jimmy who did odd jobs at Harbor Point. I heard about a guy named Evan Kessler. Used to be a real estate attorney, disbarred for forged deeds, now calling himself a consultant. On the books, he was handling security contracts for the HOA. Off the books? Well, A few shell companies and a couple $100,000 in consulting fees told the rest of the story. Linda and Kessler were running a land grab, hiding it in plain sight, counting on nobody noticing or caring enough to fight back. So I pushed back, quietly at first, filed a lease pendens, legalese for not so fast, on my land. Called in a favor from Sarah McMillan, a journalist who could smell a cover-up 3 counties away. Anonymous tips started going to the county inspector, the IRS, even the press. I wanted Linda nervous. I wanted her looking over her shoulder, wondering how much I knew and what was coming next. Turns out, not everyone in Harbor Point was happy with her little empire. David Walsh, board member, called me out of the blue. "If you've got proof," he whispered, "there's a few of us who might help." So I started feeding the fire. Sarah found a memo, backdated approvals, signed by Linda and copied to Kessler. Illegal. That was the crack in the dam. I passed it to Walsh. Next thing you know, the HOA board is in open mutiny. Channel 9 News runs a segment. Luxury development under fire. Linda's perfect smile finally wobbles on live TV. Behind her, her own board is jumping ship. But you don't win a war with headlines alone. The state attorney's office gets involved. Search warrants. Asset freezes. The whole 9 yards. One morning, I'm drinking coffee on the porch when a parade of black SUVs rolls by. State investigators, deputies, news vans. I drove up to a hill overlooking Harbor Point. Watched the chaos unfold. Linda Graves, pale and cornered, trying to hold on as her empire collapsed. Residents whispering, pointing, realizing their HOA dues had bought more than just fresh landscaping. You'd think I'd feel triumphant. But standing on my dock, watching that circus across the water, all I felt was tired. Winning isn't as loud as you think. It's paperwork and deadlines. And waiting. But it's also satisfaction, deep down, that no matter how long it took, the truth caught up. And it did, in spectacular fashion. By the next day, headlines screamed about fraud. Criminal indictments, frozen bank accounts. Harbor Point's mansions, worth a combined $12 million, went up for auction, liquidated to pay the judgments I'd secured. I lined up a developer I trusted. Turned those glass palaces into high-end rentals, open to anyone with a fishing rod or a family picnic. Yeah, that's right. The same place that once kept people out with gates and security guards now. Saw kids cannonballing off the dock. Linda? She lawyered up. Got hit with charges for fraud, conspiracy, falsifying records. Her sidekick Kessler didn't fare any better. The state dug deeper than I ever expected. Offshore accounts, kickbacks, fake permits. Her world shrank to the size of a courtroom. Funny, isn't it? How quickly a fortress can crumble when you push in the right spot. And me? I got my land back. Every last acre. The county reversed the sale, wiped the liens, cleared my title. But what I really got back was peace of mind, walking my own property without feeling someone's shadow trailing behind me. Even got to watch some of Harbor Point's residents finally look each other in the eye, the kind of honesty that only comes when secrets die in public. A few weeks later, Walsh met me at a diner, far from the lake, away from all the drama. He looked 10 years older, a little lighter. "Most of us just talk about doing something," he said. "You actually did it." I just shrugged. Truth is, nobody does this alone. You need help. The quiet ones who start asking questions, the friends who remember where the bodies are buried, the people who just refuse to let go. People like Sarah, Jimmy, even Walsh. In the end, justice isn't about getting even. It's about making sure the game changes. I walk my land now at sunset, the lake glowing amber. Harbor Point twinkling across the water like nothing ever happened. But I know better. Peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's knowing you can handle it when it comes knocking. Sometimes revenge isn't about settling the score. It's about making sure no one ever dares play the same dirty game again. So tell me, what would you have done? Where do you draw the line between right and wrong? Between defending what's yours and letting go? If you've ever had to fight for your own patch of earth, your family, your story, drop a comment. I want to hear it. Because in the end, justice doesn't come from the courts. It comes from the folks who refuse to be erased. Yeah, I took their mansions. And I'd do it again. Wouldn't you?